In this video, I'm going to be camping on top of Carn mountain in County Louth to celebrate the harvest festival of Lúnasa and maybe making a sacrifice to the gods while I'm here. Carn is a 475 metre mountain with an impressive cairn marking its peak in North County Louth. It is part of the Cooley mountain range. It's a sunny but windy Tuesday evening. It's nice and warm. The views are gorgeous up here. There was a storm that came through. It hit sort of the north of Ireland and the west of Scotland last night. I'm still feeling the remnants of the winds every now and again. We're forecast to get about 50 or 60 kilometre gusts, which should be calming down really over the next couple of hours. But generally, out of all of the weather, wind is the one that I try to avoid the most. I can deal with rain, I can even deal with a bit of snow, but wind is a bastard. It is the time of year where here in Ireland and in neighbouring Celtic countries and regions, a lot of people recognise and celebrate Lúnasa, the harvest festival. And here in Ireland we have a public holiday for it. And it traditionally lands on the 1st of August. Now the dating can be a little bit muddy around Lúnasa and any other holidays or festivals that are rooted in paganism. We now use the Gregorian calendar. However, a couple of hundred years ago, we used the Julian calendar. And there's about 13 days difference in those calendars. So the 1st of August looked very different now to a few hundred years ago. However, if you want to get really accurate, which is where I try and sit with this stuff, we have to use the colony calendar. The colony calendar is the only archaeological, historical reference to an ancient Celtic calendar that we have. It was found in France. It was created by the Gauls and it's about 2,000 years old. And on it, you can see the quarter festivals of Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lúnasa and Samhain. I'll throw up a picture here of a calendar that I made for this year using the colony calendar against our calendar. But using the dates of the solstices, you can pretty accurately get the days in which the quarter festivals fall. And this year, it is the 7th of August. Is today the 7th of August? Absolutely not. Because life gets in the way. So I'm up here a day early to celebrate. That was a lot of chatting for a lot of hill walking. I went up 150 metres there while I was chatting away, which you can probably tell because I was quite out of breath. Oh, I'm just about to come out of the woods. I was getting spooked out by sounds in the shadows. I'm just coming out into the open mountains now, which looks wonderful. What an amazing place to be on a Tuesday evening. Some of the traditions of Lúnasa, some of which are a couple of hundred years old and some of which trace back thousands of years, where people would go to places locally to them that meant something. A lot of the times that was rivers or lakes, and a lot of the times it was mountains. People would climb to the top of mountains, oftentimes where there was cairns, and they would bring the first of the ripening. They would bring berries, they would bring bilberries, blueberries, blackberries. Sometimes they would bring corn, potatoes, whatever they had that had just been harvested. They would bring it to the top of their local mountain and they would bury it for the gods as a sacrifice. But Lugh, the god, how he came to be such a powerful person was he was kind of like, you know, we all have that friend who's really good at everything. That was Lugh. Lugh was the god of art and poetry and skill, carpentry, harp playing, just knowledge. He was this amazing god who was just great at everything. But how he got his foot in the door to eventually become king of the Tuatha was he rocked up to the hill of Tara, which was the seat of the king of the Tuatha Danann, whose name was Mhadaidh. Rocked up to the door as they were having a big feast and said to the doorman, "I bet you that I am better than everybody in that hall at their respective skills." And the doorman said, "Yeah, right, go on, get out of here." So Lugh then went and listed everything he could think of: carpentry, hurling, fighting, harp playing. So eventually he annoyed the doorman enough that he went into the hall, went up to Mhadaidh and said, "Here, there's some young fella at the door there. He's telling me he's better than everybody in here at whatever skills they possess." It's fierce windy up here. Hopefully this, the little dead cat on the microphone is doing its job. So Mhadaidh hands the doorman a board game called Fidchail, which is kind of like chess. The doorman went out and Lugh beat him in every game. The doorman went back in and he told Mhadaidh, and Mhadaidh said, "Bring him in." And that's how he got his foot in the door. This is the beginning of the story of the second battle of Mhadaidh. It's this great epic story where Lugh sort of leads the Tuatha Danann to victory over the Fomorians. But he impressed Mhadaidh so much that he gave him command over the war, and that's how he became king. But not long after being crowned king, Lugh's foster mother, Taltu, died, and she was after clearing this great landscape in Meath for agriculture, and she died of exhaustion, it said afterwards. And Lugh loved this woman so much as his foster mother that he created annual games which were held on the 1st of August or Lúnasa, or, depending on the colony calendar, whenever that fell. And they were called the Taltine Games, or Éanach Taltine. And these are a real thing that happened. Like, whether or not Lugh founded these games, they were sort of like the Irish Olympic Games. It is said that they could be possibly traced back as far as 1800 BC, and they happened consistently right up until the 900s AD. There was a little break here and there in that century, but they came back again, and then they really fizzled out after the English conquest in the 11th century. But they had a resurgence after that a couple of hundred years later, and they dipped in and out of history all the way up until the 1930s. And they haven't really reared their head properly again since then, which is kind of sad. I'd love to see them back, just as a celebration that could be 4,000 years old. Like, that's insane. But what's even more mad is that they know where it happened. There was a place in Meath called Telltown. In Irish, it's Taltine. There are mounds and fields with platforms on them. There's been archaeology there. They know that this is where these festivals and games were held. That is where Taltu, the foster mother of Lugh, is buried. That's insane. It's still there. Unfortunately, it's all on private land, so it's very difficult to go and see it and have a proper look, because you have to get permission from multiple landowners, because it's quite a large landscape that it's spread over, because it was huge. So anyway, it was said to have been started by the god Lugh, and that is in part why I feel that Lugh is celebrated at that time of year. He started that festival, which became the Harvest Festival. Fuck, I've still a way to go here. I'm digging in here, but I have about, I'd say, a half an hour before that sun dips over the mountain. So I'm gonna get moving. I'll pick things up when I get to the top. This last kilometre has been very difficult, especially when you're racing the sun. But anyway, I am almost at the peak, and I passed by this little dip just down there, and there's no wind there. It's a perfect little wind block just over that little dip there. I think that's where I'm going to plonk my tent after I get to the top. This is Carn, an ancient burial cairn that has not been excavated or opened since it's been closed thousands of years ago. And people think there's a dog buried in there. Wadi, in the Ulster dialect, is like a nickname for Modra or Wadra, a dog in Irish. So there's the cairn of the dog. Some theorise that it is the dog of Fionn McCool that's buried in there. Man, the views up here are amazing. No matter where you look, it's unreal. This is the spot. That's Slieve Foy behind me there. I'm about 300 meters in distance from the peak. It's so nice and quiet here. It was so chaotic up there. Unbelievably worthwhile just coming down from the peak and finding there's this big rock formation just in front here that's just blocking all of that wind. And if I set the tent up so it's in line with the wind, we'll be flying. Pretty. I really like this spot. I think I made the right call in coming down here, and plus the views are amazing. Should get the sunrise if you don't get engulfed by clouds in the morning. One of the traditions at Lúnasa is to take freshly picked flowers. It's more of an offering than a sacrifice, really. But on a mountain is to offer freshly picked flowers. And the second tradition is to bury some berries. In this pocket, I picked some blackberries on the way up. Make sure I get them all because I'll find some squished blackberries in my pocket tomorrow morning. Bury it all back up. And those are the two offerings to the god Lugh that were traditionally done on mountains for hundreds, potentially thousands of years. It all feels a bit performative. It's not so much the offering to the gods that draws me to this. Like, maybe they did believe that that was an offering for maybe next year to make sure that Lugh brought them a good harvest again. But as is usually the case with these sorts of things, it's just nature. And maybe by burying your fresh berries the first of the year, they will break down and the seeds will turn into some berry bushes, and in a couple of years maybe there'll be a big blueberry bush here or a blackberry bush here. You know, maybe that's what it's actually about. Oh, the main thing is keeping a few blueberries for your breakfast. It's not often that I get to sit outside the tent and enjoy the outside bit of camping, because normally it's packed out with midges or flies or some sort of insect. But up here all I can see is butterflies and the odd sheep. The wind is just enough to keep the midges away. It's also after getting a little chilly. The 1st of August is supposed to be the beginning of autumn in the Celtic calendar, and it seems as though that season has definitely turned. So when people used to come up to the hills or to lakes or to rivers, and they'd have these gatherings and celebrations, they also used to have these little plays or stories. And across Western Europe, in Scotland, the Isle of Man, Ireland, islands off the coast of England, you find this story that's very similar across the board. This would have been sort of acted out, like there would have been celebrations, and then at a time of the day or the evening, they would have been like, oh, it's time for the play. So then a couple of people would have acted this out in front of everybody, probably with a nice fire lit, and it sounds kind of class, to be honest. So the story that they would tell is that Lugh came across this new beautiful piece of land in Ireland while he was walking around, and he decided to put a house there. But after a while building the house, him and his followers, the people that were with him helping him build, they got hungry. So they went to the local king's house or castle or hall, and they asked him for some food. And this king, his name was Mhadaidh, and he was tight. He was hoarding all of the harvest for himself. He didn't want to give it to his people or anybody else. But he knew who Lugh was. He knew he was this great, powerful god, and he didn't like him. So he tried to play a trick on him. And he said, outside, there's a great big bull. He said, you take that bull, bring him back to your house, slaughter him. So Lugh says, great, thanks. Takes the bull, brings him back, slaughters him. Everybody has a big feast and a great time. However, Mhadaidh is sitting in his castle, laughing away, because he gave him the most aggressive, angry bull that he was sure would kill Lugh when he tried to slaughter him. But the bull succumbed to Lugh. He submitted to him when he slaughtered him. He let him put the rope around his neck. Lugh was too powerful. The next day, Mhadaidh hears that Lugh was successful in having the bull feast, and he marches down to the house that they're building, and Lugh sees him stomping towards him, and he sees the evil in his eye. And Lugh knew the whole time. He knew that that bull was meant to kill him, that it was a trap. But he also knew that he could tame that bull. So as Mhadaidh walked towards him, Lugh picked up his spear and with one thrust stabbed him in the head, killed him instantly. Lugh took his position of leader of that area and distributed the harvest equally among the people. That's the story that was told about Lugh saving the harvest on mountains like this for thousands of years. Not just in Ireland, and sometimes it wasn't Lugh, sometimes there were different characters, sometimes it wasn't Mhadaidh. During the Christianization period of Ireland, that story was changed to Saint Patrick. Lugh was removed from it, and Mhadaidh himself is sort of a fictional character, kind of made up by Christian monks, who is based on the pagan god Cruach. It's a very complex distorting of stories over centuries and centuries. But regardless of me being a little bit early with my Lúnasa celebrations up here, I hope I have pleased the gods, and I hope that the gods will keep the midgies away from me. It's going to start getting dark here over the next 20 minutes or so. So I'm going to hunker down into my tent and try and warm up because my hands are starting to freeze. Iha wata carja. See you in the morning. Imagine what, Mhadaidh. I woke up just in time for the sunrise. It's 5:45 in the morning. If it wasn't for this delightful blanket cloud, I'd have the Mourne Mountains with Sliabh Foy, the sun bursting over the top of it. I'm trying to imagine it here, so this is your classic Irish camping experience. Still, there's something kind of cool about it, I guess. It makes everything so quiet. The sleep was a little rough last night. The wind picked up. It was supposed to die down from about 10 p.m. onwards, but about 1 o'clock in the morning it picked up and the tent got bashed around for about an hour. This is why maps are important, because I haven't a clue where I am. And I can see probably 20 meters in front of me, and that's about it.
Well, at least it's not raining. Nothing special for breakfast this morning. No flapjacks today. I had a couple of these in my house from camping with my family last week, but they don't taste great. The blueberries help. I didn't expect it to be that cold last night. That sleeping bag I got it's a summer bag. It's rated for 3 degrees, I think. But let me tell you, and that's comfort rating. That's not even getting down to the limits. Last night was not 3 degrees, and I was wearing a fleece and long johns, and I actually had to use the little chemical hand warmers. I threw 2 of them down the end of my sleeping bag last night because I just couldn't get warm enough. That is my cue to get packed up and get out of here. The sun. I saw it for a sec, it exists. No trace, but a little dry patch of grass. Okay, I'm off. It was a good camping spot. To the south. Back on a real trail. The guesswork is over. I have made it out alive. And the sun is coming out. And the clouds are clearing. Praise Lou. Who's the sun god as well, by the way. I did enjoy my little ritual last night. It brings me to the point that I hark on so much about mythology, and I usually point out that I choose to believe certain parts, usually when there is some sort of something to do with the landscape that ties in with the stories. But I don't really believe it all, you know. I'm obsessed with the idea of ritual, and I love the stories. Our mythology is sort of spookily similar to Greek mythology. There's really close ties between like Achilles and Cuchulainn, and even the story here of like the hoarding of the grain and Persephone's, and there's really close ties with our mythology. And the Firbolg, who were people who lived here before the Tuatha Dé Danann, were thought to have come from Greece and Scythia and all of that sort of region. And I talked previously in the video about DNA evidence that the Irish, the Gaels, had come from northern Spain. There is DNA of the Iberian Peninsula in a lot of Irish people, but there is also traces back to Turkey. Now, I'm not sure in what capacity Turkey existed 5,000 years ago, but to that region of the world anyway. So it would make sense that their stories, their mythologies and their folklore carried over through time, through their migration to Ireland. And it is from them that a lot of our stories come from. I do think that we had our own heroes that existed in real life. It was several famous warriors throughout time whose stories got mixed and jumbled together and then got mashed in with bits of Greek mythology and our own, and became what it is now. That's what I actually think. I don't think that Fionn McCool was able to throw a boulder the size of a van across a loch. Anyway, I love the idea of ritual. I love taking part in a ritual. I love witchy stuff. I have a rowan tree beside my back door because it stops evil spirits from entering the house. I think this stuff is cool. It's fun to practice. When I walked through here last night, thinking you're in the middle of nowhere on your own, I just heard somebody like banging a tin pot and like rustling around in the trees. Mightily spooky stuff. I'm glad I wasn't planning on camping in the forest last night. I swear I just heard it again. I just heard some like cracking coming from the woods, but it wasn't like a normal crack. That was like maybe like a big animal or something. Could be some deer knocking around. I do not like this forest. It creeps me out. Usually I'm fine with this sort of thing, but it's the second time coming through here now where I'm hearing weird noises coming from in there somewhere. I don't know what the crack is with this little Christmas tree. I don't know what that's all about. People just bringing baubles up to the mountains with them. But I am glad to be out of that forest, man. I don't mind this beside me, this is all fine, but that forest gives me the creeps and it just feels oppressive and dark. It's not often that I get the willies about a place, but I don't like that forest. Well, that's me descending now the last little bit of forest before I get back to the car. If you made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. And go back and have a look at some of the other videos if you're into this, because I don't stop shiting on about mythology and history and folklore. It is a great passion of mine, and this is my outlet for talking about it. It's long and full.